welcome to another episode of the Chronicles of Mr. I'm Mr. Pierre. And I'm so glad to be joined by Mrs. Henriquez, who is a counselor. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because at the time that we are recording this, there is a lot of stuff going on, and we are just getting into the new year of 2025. And there's so much that's happening or has happened within the first 2 weeks or so. So, Ms. Henriquez, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really looking forward to having this conversation because we were just saying right before we started recording that um, a lot of times it's not the kids, sometimes it's us as educators, and being able to acknowledge that and not then project it onto the kids is something really, really important. Myself, as now this is year 18 of being in education, I can say that with my full chest and not be sort of ashamed of that. Whereas if I were to look back at year one, Mr. Pierre, maybe I'm like, no, it's not me. It's definitely the kids who are wilding out, or they're definitely the kids who are in their feelings. Whereas now it's like, no, this is me who are bringing things into the classroom and being able to be aware of that. So if I could ask you first to start off with, you are as a counselor, how many years have you been a counselor?
9. This is my 9th
9 years.
year.
Excellent, excellent. And what sort of brought you into the field, and what sort of kept you in the field of what it is that you're doing?
Yeah, so from a very young age, my mom made it very important to say, whatever career you choose, you need to choose it because you love it. She's like, the money will come, but you have to enjoy going to work. And so that kind of stuck with me for a long time. And she was very um, headstrong on volunteering. And so she said, if you want to try something out, you have to volunteer. And I always knew I wanted to help kids from very young. That's just what I wanted to do. And then over time, um, it just kind of, I ended up being an undergrad and working at the counseling center. And I said, yeah, this is what I want to do. But I didn't want to be a social worker. I didn't want to be a mental health therapist. And so I then went into the counseling world. I did, I think I minored in education. So I did teach. And I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. Like, I give my teacher friends a lot of, they tell me they can't do what I do. And I'm like, no, I can't do what you do. So that's how I got in. And the way I've stayed is because I know this is my purpose. Like, I'm not leaving. Like, this is what I'm meant to do on this earth. And as difficult as it is some days, um, this is just what I'm here to do. This is where God has placed me.
Awesome. I appreciate that awareness because similarly, I am spent many of my years as a middle school teacher, and the same response that you've gotten of like, as an elementary school teacher, hey, I could never do elementary, or as a high school teacher, I could never do middle school. And it's like, that's great as long as we know where our lane is and we are happy in that lane and to be able to help and serve kiddos. And I think it's best because if you are meant to be in elementary school and you're in middle or high school, you're just going to be unhappy. And
Yeah, I've seen many colleagues leave or get access and they've been happier because they're in high school or listen, middle school, a lot of people are like, you don't want to start there.
yeah,
I love it here. Like
thank you.
middle school has my heart heavy.
And have you been in that middle school lane your entire 9 years?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm from New York, so getting a counselor job was very difficult when I started. There was like a freeze. So I ended up starting as a SAPS counselor, which is a substance abuse prevention counselor, and it's like just prevention on making healthy decisions. And it was with a middle school actually. Um, and then I luckily went to another middle school, but yeah, I've done, I don't think I can do high school. I look like a high school student myself, so it doesn't
When
work
I
out.
when I started out as well,
No.
in I was thinking the same thing. I was like, you know what? A lot of these high school kiddos, I know me enough that I would be like, you know what? You're not gonna try me
Mm-hmm.
like that. And being
No.
from the Northeast as well, I'm from Massachusetts, so a lot of when you mentioned New York, I'm like, I feel like it's the same mix of kiddos who are like, no,
Yes.
this is how we are. I'm like, no, I know how you are. I'm the same way, and it's not gonna work out.
Exactly.
It's not gonna
Exactly.
work out. Um, you now go, you now being 9 years deep in it, what is something that you would have told your younger self, like, hey, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority, but be mindful of this one thing because it's going to keep you sane. It's going to allow that joy to continue to be with you because that joy is what's going to allow you to be able to sustain this long marathon because it's not a sprint. What would that one thing be?
You're asking me that based off of like
Your
working
experiences?
with kids or
Yeah,
the job itself?
I think it's a dual loaded question of like we have the kiddos aspect of it. It's like, hey, kids are gonna be kids, but also too like there's that aspect of like as the adult and working with other adults, that part can sometimes be challenging. It's like, hey, I love the kiddos, but this part of it is making it I can't say in it and consequently. So I guess you could look at it at both lens.
Yeah. So early on, I going back to what you first said, which it's me, not the kids.
Yeah.
I learned very early on that it's the adults, it's not the kids. And I luckily I was starting off in a school that was children with disabilities, and I was luckily in grad school, so I was able to kind of differentiate the behaviors. It wasn't on purpose, and I
Mm-hmm.
think if I could go back and tell people, don't take it personal,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the kids. I've gotten cursed out, I've gotten things thrown at me. When you dive deeper, there's something going on. And so you can never take it personal because you have to understand you're working with people who are growing.
Yeah.
How many adults don't we know that probably kids act better? So um I don't take it personal. And I use everything as a teachable moment. So if a kid disrespects me or says something, I just give it back to them in a respectful way. Will they try you? 100%. Um, but you have to let it be known that, hey, there's rules. This is how I am. And that's it. I tell kids all the time, I'm like, you really disappointed me. Like that really
Yeah.
hurt me
Yeah.
because I have feelings too. Or if I'm having a bad day, I'm like, hey, I'm having a bad day and I don't want to take it out on you. Give me 5 minutes.
Now is that
Um,
because you're acknowledging, hey, I'm feeling whatever, or hey, kiddo, you've said or done X, Y, Z, and this is the effect on me. And I think a lot of teachers, and I'll date myself, are just old school and like, hey, we're not gonna let the kids see that. You know, I remember when I first started, there was a veteran teacher say, don't let the kids see you smile until November. I'm like, no, I can't go 15 minutes without like tracking a joke or trying to be humorous in some
uh-huh.
way. Like, so don't smile till November. So like showing your emotions, I think, or even acknowledge the emotions in what you just mentioned is something that I think a lot more teachers need to do, but do it in such a way that is authentic to them, but not going to make the space no longer professional, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes kids think we don't have feelings. I think
Mm,
kids think we don't have a life. We don't have children. We don't have spouses.
yeah.
They may not know, you know, I'm dealing with my own maybe family members who have mental health issues, and then I have to come to work. Um, so it's just a teachable moment for everybody because they need to understand that we too also go through things, and they just can't go around yelling at people or acting a certain way.
Mhm.
It's not fair to us and it's not fair to them. So yeah, I think like you said, in a way that is authentic to you, just to kind of tell them like, "Hey, I'm a human." Like that hurts.
Yeah. um, you being in the space that you are, do you ever have moments where you are able to coach teachers, where you are able to give them the tools that maybe they weren't necessarily given or learned? Because as the saying goes, hurt people, right?
Yeah.
So do you have that opportunity to ever assist teachers so that they can then support kids?
I became a life coach in 2020.
Awesome.
I felt like something was missing. I felt like I don't know about you, but I'm Puerto Rican from New York. I was raised like you're going to go to college, you're going to get a job and XYZ. I did
Yeah.
it. Felt proud, amazing, and then I was like, something's missing. Like this I don't feel like this is it.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? I know I have more work to do to help others. So I became a life coach. After the pandemic, I had teachers coming into my office just overwhelmed, just with everything naturally. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pivot and do life coaching with teachers. Y'all are a rough crowd. Teachers are a rough crowd. First of all, the money is trash, so I get it.
Hmm.
So for you to spend money, you know, you have to find value in it, and I understand that. But the ones that do it, it's because they want to and they find the silver lining in it. And
Yeah,
so I definitely still, yeah, I have teachers that come to me and just vomit everything. And I do give them advice on certain things. But it's hard. You can't, you guys are dealing with 30 kids at a time. It's rough. So, yeah, it's a definitely, I think coaching is like an individual journey. And I wish more educators would take part in it for sure.
I agree. Being the child of two Haitian immigrants and everything,
Yeah.
born and raised in Massachusetts, so likewise, the sort of the boxes of check, check, check,
Right.
um, and also feeling like, man, there's got to be more to it because this can't just be it. And then moving to California in 2020 during the pandemic, even more clear of how important mental health is, and seeing that
Mhm.
not just in the adults, but particularly transferring to the classroom was real. And so having to be able to have conversations such as this with professionals who are able to give some assistance to educators
Yeah.
is key because, like you said, the pay is not great, but if you're finding value in what it is that you're doing, then you'll be able to stay at it for a long time. You'll be longevity to being in the profession.
A
And if you
hundred
choose not
percent.
to, as I've said, hey, no shade to you as well. I get that as well.
Yeah.
Would you? It's a question that I like to ask the guests is like, is there anything that you would recommend in terms of something that folks could read, maybe a book? Are there any pieces of literature out there that you would highly recommend to educators?
I actually, a side note, I've thought about writing a book because I got stories for days.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe that'll be in my future.
Okay.
Um,
TBD.
but I'm also currently reading Resisting Happiness.
Okay.
Um, it's
It,
funny, I had this conversation with someone at work recently, and I said, everyone has a choice. And I think people argue with the fact that that's not fair, right? Like people grow up maybe in different economic situations and dual parenthoods or divorce or single parenthoods, right? So sometimes life is unfair, but
yeah.
I think everyone has a choice. Are some choices harder than others? Yes. But I think everyone has a choice, and I think choosing happiness is probably your biggest choice and biggest decision you have to make. And so reading that, you know, you can be like, I'm a counselor and a life coach. Great. I still have work to do as well, So
Mhm.
it's like choosing every day to live and be happy and to look for the silver lining in everything, because if it's not one thing, it's five. So,
Very true.
you have to figure out, and also you have to figure out what battles you're going to pick. Like not enough people talk about, not only the kids, the teachers, the admin. Like not enough people talk about cultivating a, you know, type of community in the school setting. And I'm sure like California, New York is huge. Like you could say district, but then you have neighborhoods
Hmm.
in the district.
Yeah.
Everybody is so different. So it's really hard, but I think when you look at life as choosing and you having the power to choose what you want to do, you definitely feel, I think, more ready to take things on. And if you're not ready to take those on, or you fear taking those choices, then it's good to like bounce those off to people and talk to someone about it.
I think what you just said about community is super important. And to anyone who's listening, look to create that community wherever you are. Look to find another person or two people who one, a person who you see like, you know what, where Miss Enriquez is at, that's where I would like to be. Let me just check in with her. Like, how did you get there? What did you do? What were the
Yeah.
pitfalls? What would have been the things that you would avoid, in order that you don't feel like you are going at it alone? And I also think the mindset of you mentioning too of like, if you view things as being the marathon, that if things are not great right now, that means it's not the end. Because in the end, it will be great or will be better. So if it's not so great right now, that means it's not the end. Hey, there's something else that can be done, some way that I can look to be happy or content in where I'm at right now and what I need to do to get to where I'm going. But I think that community aspect that you mentioned about is super important because a lot of times we'll see someone somewhere and think that they did it all by themselves when in fact
Hmm.
they got a whole team behind them who's been helping them out step by step by step, and you're thinking, oh, I got to do it by myself, and the reality is, no, you don't. You
Yeah.
don't have to do it by yourself.
No, I tell people they should not do it by themselves, actually.
Yeah,
Like, I know this is like, I know people feel like this is a world of like, I don't want anyone thinking I owe them anything. But I wouldn't be here with a bunch of people,
yeah,
like just, and it's funny because I have this conversation. I currently have two interns. And they tell me all the time, like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have had the experience that I have. They don't teach this, XYZ. And I find it so sad that other counselors make it so difficult for future counselors to learn to get the experience. And I said, whenever I get to that point that I can take on interns, I'm going to take them on because I had some amazing people show me and teach me, and I want to give back that way. Um and so yeah, I think you just need to like find your people, stick with them, and never do it by yourself. Never.
yeah. Agreed, agreed. There were plenty of veteran teachers who whispered things in my ear, put things out into the ether, like, "Hey, Willie, take this if you want. I would do this. I remember doing that. Here's some things I would do differently." And thanks to them, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
Got a couple scars from some battles and wishing that I had done things differently, but I'm grateful and can share with whoever's listening either to the podcast or who's in my classroom, or if we have a coffee, I'm like, hey, this is what happened to me. This is what I would have done differently. Take it
Yeah.
as you wish, if you wish. Because yeah, it may have gone one way with me, but it may have gone some other way with another person. But just being able to have that reciprocity of like being able to talk to someone and like, hey, bounce things off of them, is super, super helpful.
Yeah, and I even do the same thing. I have, a friend of mine, a best friend who's a teacher at
Mm.
my job. And anytime I want teacher buy-in, I ask her how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than telling a teacher what to do. And I learned that very early on. And so I go to her and I'm like, "Hey, how should I write this email? How should I talk to this one?" So it's things you learn along the way. You get your
Yeah.
own, flavor to it.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, and don't, people come in and they're like, "Oh, don't talk to this one. Don't talk to that one." Get to know everybody. And that's another advice. Once you start, you stay quiet, you look around, and then you make it your own every year, a little something different.
Agreed.
You can't take on the world the first year you come in. Yeah, like every year I always have a goal. Like, hey, maybe I need to be more organized with this, or maybe I need to clean, do this with these teachers or students. So yeah, that's my advice.
Was that something that you picked up yourself, or did someone like, hey, let me share this with you? Because I think there are a lot of teachers who, yeah, it's later down the line that they realize that. Was that something that you learned earlier on?
Yeah, I was very green. I mean, well, I think I had an advantage somewhat. A lot of my family members are in the education field. A lot of them worked in, the board of ed and like in like the buildings, like the high superintendents. And so I was always around that stuff. Like I could never get up one on my mom. Like she knew everything. So Like that wasn't so I was around that a lot. And it was always like when you go in, you do your job, you're not there for anything else but your job. And I came in kind of green, and you're young and you want to be with all the young people. But I always found entertainment in the older veteran teacher that nobody was like that. They were like, oh, she's crazy or whatever. I had this one teacher and I loved her. Till this day, I still talk to her. And she would just tell me everything. And I was just so amazed that she was such a badass. Like,
Hmm.
I was like, are you going to say no to the principal? Seriously?
Yeah.
But that comes with, that comes, that comes with a lot of like experience. And I learned, I am gravitated to that. So I learned that. And then over time, you learn, unfortunately, how to play the game. You don't necessarily how to play it, but you should know the rules and the players. And then you figure it out from there.
Look, if everyone's listening, I'm hoping you picked up on a couple things that were just dropped. Number one, recognizing the game or the politics of what it means to be in a school, from you're a new teacher to the veteran teacher to who's your assistant principal, who's the principal, what's their MO, how do they like to be emailed, what's the tone,
Oh
how
my
to
god,
is it
yes.
is it first like prime of having a conversation in the hallways before you send that email so everything's official, getting the feel of like who do I send to this person, who's a veteran teacher that I speak to get like their input on all of that.
Seriously.
All of that is um, plays in the mix of being at a school, whether you
Yes.
are a classroom teacher or a counselor or this or that. Yeah, all that's important. All the things that you're not necessarily taught in a class, but a teacher's going to know that and be able to hopefully share those sort of gems with you if you're open to receiving them, because sometimes you
Yeah.
might not be.
Yeah, I mean, I take everything with the grain of salt. Like I say it all the time, like my principal and my husband are the same zodiac sign. So I dealing with my husband, I learned how to deal with my principal. It's very straightforward, very what do you want, get it across, because
Mm.
that's how I know that he likes things.
Hmm.
So that's how I do it. Like there's times where I can joke around and there's times where I'm like, okay, I have to be serious. This is how things need to be done. Okay, cool. Um I know teachers like to be included on things. So of course, I'll write emails and get their input. Hey, this isn't working. How should I do it? Um but yeah, it's a balancing act that you just have to figure out every year. It's different. But I wouldn't take it personal with teachers either. With
I think
staff, period.
all of it is if you're realizing the human component of it, then I think you're okay. I think it's when folks
Yeah.
forget that, or even with the kids, like we were talking earlier, like, you know what, kiddo, it's actually not you. You're not the one who's bugging right now. It's me. Traffic was whatever it was. I got here
Yes.
late,
Oh gosh.
or if you're a coffee person, I didn't get the coffee the way that I wanted to, or what. Like, I need to acknowledge that. And I think when you are able to do that on a really authentic and real based level, then on the other side, I'd say 90% of the time, the other person, human beings, they're like, oh, no, I get that because that's happened to me too. I think it's when folks are trying to flex or put up a
Yeah.
front that then there's the static that happens in between.
Yeah. And kids like, wow, they read bullshit from a mile away.
Yeah,
Like they'll
yeah,
tell me things and I'm like, no.
yeah.
And I'm like, wow, how did you? Because I mean, I don't know about you. Like, I grew up like you're a child. You stay quiet.
Mm-hmm.
You respect the
Mm-hmm.
teacher, and that's it. And I knew
Yep.
nothing about my teachers. Nothing. Like if I saw them in the supermarket, I ran the other way. Like that's it. And
Yeah.
so when the kids tell me things, I'm like, oh, how did you pick up on that? Like I find it fascinating. Like that some kids are just so they get it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that is so cool. I learn a lot from my kids too. Like just because I've been doing this doesn't mean I can't learn from them either.
I tell the kiddos each year, I'm like, look, kiddos, I'm a farmer of the future. I know at some point or another, you're going to be the next doctors, the next lawyers, and this and next that. I want to make sure that when you look back and you think about Mr. Pierre, you're not going to remember all the lessons that I taught you, but I'm hoping that the feeling is going to be like, you know
Yeah.
what, Mr. Pierre was all right, as opposed to the opposite of that's like, nah. Whenever I think about Mr. Pierre, my fist clench up, and that dude, he did this to me. That like I rather the opposite of that. Like, hey, he was all right. He treated me like a human being, so I'm hoping,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. I
that
agree.
sticks.
I agree.
I know you picked up that book, and I didn't catch the author of it, but who was the author for that book?
It
Matthew.
says Matthew Kelly.
Excellent. Because I like
Mhm.
to ask the guests, is there a book that they're reading that they would share with the pod community? And is it what's the title of it one more time?
Resisting Happiness.
Resisting Happiness. Cool, 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 cool. If I were to ask you, um, this is the question that I like to ask the most because usually when I'm towards the end, is in regards to music. I'm a music head. But if
Okay.
you were to choose and create a playlist, knowing that if we were to ask Jennifer 2 months from now, it could be a totally different playlist. But at the moment, 5 songs, 5 artists, who would be on your playlist at the
Well, Bad Bunny just came out with his album, so it's
moment? I've heard some good
literally
things.
top 5 of mine right now. Just
Okay.
listening to it on repeat.
Okay.
Um, I also love Glorilla. Like something about her is just like I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like it's just there. Um, who else? I don't know. I've been listening to just like old stuff. Like I just feel like
Nothing
sometimes
wrong with
like
that.
I like Tyla. She's
Okay.
cute.
Nice.
It's a good vibe. Anything that's like gonna get me
You can
dancing
sway
and
with you.
okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Um, but I just can't do the new rap. I just like it's cool. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't understand what they're saying sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I can't do it. Um, I can't do it.
Understood. Understood.
But yeah, Bad Bunny is like overtaking me at
I
the moment.
respect it. I respect it. I respect it. I saw. Um, is this just the album, or is it the documentary that I guess is like accompanied with it, or is it the two, or the whole shebang when it comes to Bad Bunny?
I mean, overall, I think this album is kind of like nostalgic, except especially for Puerto Rican people because um it just you grow up and you kind of see like the music go into phases, and he's
Mm-hmm.
literally put it all in one plate for you. And so it makes you feel like, wow, I'm getting the fun, but I'm also getting like things I grew up with.
Yeah.
Um, and it just discusses like the politics, it discusses the love for the land, the love for the people, the community, um, just the vibrant culture that we have. So it just encompasses so much, and he's just so proud
Yeah.
of it, and it makes you happy that he's so proud.
Can't be mad at it. Can't be mad at it. That sounds dope.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Is there anything that you would like to plug in that the podcast community would like to or should know about when it comes to you?
I just want to promote self-awareness and healthy career coping mechanisms. I think, and I think for us too as well. It's like we love education, but we pivoted into other things, right? Because we realize like, okay, I don't have to just stay stuck in this one lane. And my goal as a life coach is to empower educators to feel those things. Like if you want to do something, I'm going to be here to, empower you. And I think with life coaching versus traditional therapy, life coaching is goal oriented, it's accountability based, and it's there to help you get where you need to get and discover your bigger why. And I help educators, with overwhelm at work, um, time management, work life balance, and just feeling like they're not enough because of so many changes that happen. I have a teacher who she was upset because we have an influx of immigrants and she has to translate math lessons in 9 different languages. And I said, "Girl, you just got to do the best you can because if it's not this, it's that."
Mhm.
And so I love to help educators just with a mindset shift around their career because it's very sad to see so many of us leaving.
Is there a website that folks can check out if they wanted to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so it's at coachingwithgrace.com. So coachingwgrace.com. And I'll send you like I have the IG page and my handles.
Awesome.
Um my TikTok is more like funny.
Hmm.
And I had to they found my TikTok at work and I was like, "Oh, talk
Exactly.
about the teachers getting me pissed off, but it's okay."
Coaching with Grace. Got it.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, folks, there were a couple gems dropped. I know for myself, the one that I appreciate is recognizing create your community. Create that community that's going to be able to pour into you when you pour into others so that you're never feeling that you are doing this alone. And never should you feel that you have to do it alone. So find your community, create that community, build that community so that you can be sustained. Jennifer Henriquez, thank you so much for coaching with Grace. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I had so much fun.
This was
Thank you.
a dope conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Um,
Thank